Okay, thank you very much. My name is David Hunt, and this is Zack, Nagaich, and we're going to talk about SafeCracking on a budget today. First off, I wanted to thank BSides for accepting our presentation, and thanks for Trusted Sec for sponsoring. So let's go ahead and get started. So why do we want to do this? It's always about why. So we found the target safe, and it had a lost combination. So we talked to the owner, and they let us play with it and poke at it, and we built this device to open it, basically. Also, if we open the safe, we get to keep it. And I've never done any safe dialing. I've mainly done like web app pen testing, other types of pen testing. I've never done any programming where you can physically have a device where you program something and the device moves. So that ties into dialing seems fun, and Arduino seems fun because that was the platform we chose. So what can you expect from this presentation? Hopefully it's a journey of discovery, or our discovery. You're going to learn a little bit about mechanical locks, the lock that we were attacking, and we have some other locks here, or some dials actually. And you're going to learn a little bit about Arduino, the technical requirements we came up with, and we used the pen testing methodology to physically breach the safe, kind of how the process we use basically. And hopefully you have fun, because we're going to have fun talking to you today. Okay, so first off, we're in our pre-engagement discussions. We had to figure out what we were attacking. So the safe, we first had to get permission to attack the safe. We had a time frame to attack the safe, so it's 24/7. We had some requirements around power. We had to get power. During our engagement, we looked at the safe. We poked at it. We tried to just open it, and it wouldn't open because we didn't know what the combination was. So our end goal was to open the safe and figure out what's inside. So some other items. This is the picture of the target safe here. The dial is a Lagarde 1777. It's a UML Group 2 mechanical lock. This lock has some known vulnerabilities, and that's what we're basically exploiting. Volume. Talk like this? Oh, there we go. Okay. So the safe... okay. Right there. The safe, it was built by Safeco, or at least that's what the badge said on it. We don't know who actually built it. When we open the safe up, it'll have badging inside of it, and that'll tell us who actually manufactured it. The safe was in a basement of a building. It was behind 2 locked doors, and there was a pile of junk in front of it. So we had to clear that big pile of junk first, because you could hardly tell there was a safe there at all. The owner had purchased the safe in the late 60s, early 70s. I don't know what he kept in it. He couldn't remember. He said it was empty. Also, the safe had wheels on it. It's movable. So the first step we took to get into the safe was basically figure out ways of getting into the safe. So the first option we came up with was to purchase a service, and that was someone to actually physically manipulate the lock. That's where you basically, with the sense of touch, can feel the wheels moving and feel being able to basically intuitively open the safe by just feeling it. And the other option was to drill it. And that was also a service that we talked to a locksmith about. So the second option was to purchase a device to open it. When we were doing scoping, we found 2 devices on the market. There's one called an ITL 2000, which is an older device. It's over 10 years old. And then there was a newer device that we discovered. It's called a QX3 combo auto dialer from Lockmasters. So the third option was to build a device where we needed to come up with technical requirements and basically everything to open the safe ourselves. So to go a little bit deeper on option 1, to purchase the service, I called a local locksmith and I talked to them about our requirements to open, and I wanted them to come and manipulate it, but he's like, they don't manipulate safes, they come and drill it, he said. It would take about 4 hours to drill, and if he wanted to fix it, it would be another cost to fix the safe to make it functional again. And to drill it was about $394. That was the estimate I got. So this was a cool option too. This was Jeff Sitar. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but we found him on the internet. There's multiple YouTube videos about him manipulating safes. I don't know, he's doing bank safes, he's doing all kinds of crazy safes. So we got really excited about this option. and I requested a quote from him, but they never got back to me. But on their website, I saw that it would be travel expenses. He's based in New Jersey, and it would also be the cost to open the safe. And then if he couldn't open the safe by manipulation, he would actually drill the safe. So that was a cool option too. That was probably the second option if building the device wouldn't work. So the option 2 was purchase the device. So the first option for purchasing the device was the ITL 2000, which is pictured here. Does anyone have an ITL 2000? Has anyone used an ITL 2000? Nuts. All right. So this is a picture of it. It's about 15-pound device. You can order it, but you have to be a licensed, bonded locksmith to get it from a reseller, and also law enforcement personnel there. They would sell it to them. Okay, so purchasing a device. The second option was the QX3 combo auto dialer from Lockmasters. I put 3 prices up there because I had to do some work to get to pricing. So I put 3 prices up there. You can kind of guess which one, how much it cost, but I didn't put it up on the screen. I just put 3 numbers up there, but I think you can guess. Also, the vendors would not discuss it really with me because I was a non-licensed locksmith and all this other stuff that we resolved with the next slide. So I basically went out to the Secretary of State of Ohio and I applied for an LLC, and I just put locksmith in the name of the company, and it cost me $99, and it took me about 2 or 3 days to get the certificate, and the result was I got my own locksmith company name or something. So on the next slide, I'm certified now. So I called the vendors back, I gave them the certificate, I gave them my driver's license, and then they gave me all this information in the mail, and they won't stop sending me stuff in the mail to buy the locksmithing tools. So the third option here, build a device. So building a device was, if you hit it again there, was kind of the option we wanted to do to begin with, but we wanted to do scoping and just see what else was out there in the environment. So this is a picture of basically kind of materials on hand, which is basically some junk screws, a piece of plexiglass, some bolts, some Arduino parts, some other stuff in there that I don't know what it is. We basically come up with a hardware build where this is what the device looks like that we came up with. There's some magnets on it. There's a stepper motor that Zack will get more into when we did the build. But we came up with hardware and we came up with software. And our approach was basically a iterative approach where we would build it, we would test it, and then we would fix what we broke, because we broke a lot of things and made a lot of mistakes. So had a lot of failure, but that's how you learn. So to summarize all of our discovery activities, here's kind of a list, and this is like the summary of all the options. So to purchase a local service, about $1,000. Time is about same day. Resource would be, hey, come fix my safe. I point to it, and he'll open it and fix it. This Jeff Sitar option, I never got cost back from him, but I assumed to be about a week because he was to schedule travel and come out and open it. And that was also point, open my safe, please. That got 2 stars. So we had a little star ranking there. That's how we decided, I guess. That was our metric for success. Then there's ITL 2000 and the QX3. Those are 3 stars. Those are basically go out to the website and order it, because now we have a registered locksmith company. And the last option was build device, which we have about $200 into it. We have about 32 hours of effort. And on our device, we have some dial time on it too. And the resources is a lot. So I had another chart that I had to delete because I wasn't all finished, but just from this whole experience of learning, I guess, we've had all these touch points with people. We talked to lots of different locksmiths. We talked to people that know more about locks than we do. I don't know that much about safe dialing. This is actually Doug's lock. He's sitting back there. He told me how it mechanically worked, and he will talk a little bit later today. But it was just a cool experience in general. Okay. So back to the build of our device. So when we were doing our research, we found that there was 2 Australian researchers that kind of did exactly what we did. They didn't have a target safe to open. Like our goal was to open this target safe. They were doing it more of a proof of concept to say, can this be done? So they had a presentation about 2 years ago, and a lot of their presentation we looked at and analyzed, and kind of they had a lot of 3D parts they printed because their device and their chassis was very, very nice and all painted and everything. Ours is kind of really junky, but it still got the job done. It still dials the safe. And that's all we really wanted to do, was just open the safe. So that was Jay Davis and I think Luke Jansen. I wanted to give a shout out to them. Thank you very much. Because I've been actually emailing them. They've given us advice. They looked at some of our issues that we've been having with power or with sizing something. Because there's all these different integration issues that Zack will talk about when he gets to his part. Okay, so I need to speed up a little bit here. So I want to talk about a road trip really, really quick. This is like the squirrel moment of the presentation. So we wanted a target that we actually could open or prove that the device worked. So we found this safe. Right there it is on the floor. It was on Amy Lane, and then we call it the Amy Lane safe. It's not really a safe. It's actually a letter vault. It was made by Hercules. You can hit the slide there. This safe also has a certificate on it, which I wanted to show it that this safe was certified by somebody that it was safe or fire resistant or something. So go ahead and go to the next one. So this is a Hercules letter vault. It does not meet any current fire restrictions or burglary resistant anythings. It was built in the late 50s to late 70s, and actually it was built by MeLink, and King Security Group actually bought MeLink in 1990, and I've been having phone tag with King Security Group because I've been trying to get information about this safe, and I wanted to disclose something to them, but they are not very receptive yet. So that was a picture of our road trip. So this safe was interesting because when we first saw the safe, I thought it was a 4-digit combination, but it actually wasn't. It's a 3-digit combination. It's 0 or 1 through 50. The last motion was just to open the safe. So that's something that Zack will talk about. Basically, the last motion to open the safe is the dial won't move. So that's how you kind of know the safe is open. So the key space here is actually is a 3 key space. It only has 120,000 combinations with that, but there's some other issues with the way the dial turns. It's less than that actually. So that's what we're kind of attacking, the key space of the safe with this device. That's the vulnerability in this dial, is the key space. Okay, so this safe here is the vulnerability in it is it's spring loaded. So I could actually put that safe on its side and just drop it and it'll pop right open. And when we talked to the owner of the safe, he was saying that he kept guns in that safe. So we were kind of concerned, and we're kind of glad that we got that safe away from him. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Zack, and he's going to... I don't want to take the time. We're kind of short. We can do it afterwards if we have time. But I want to turn it over to Zack, and he's going to talk about the technical requirements and integration points.
All right, so to get this thing built, there's a couple things we needed to get accomplished. To actually physically turn the dial, we needed a mechanism to fit on and drive it in a way that was accurate enough to, dial these combinations a lot, around 100,000, which you'll see, in a way to mount this up and the software to run it. So we'll kind of walk through the process involved for each of these. So the first objective to get done was to turn it accurately. And the way we did this was with a stepper motor. And all that really is just magnets inside this motor to discretely turn it a certain amount of steps so that you can accurately control where it is in a revolution. So we use this as the main, driving motor to turn the dial. And to build this on a platform, we chose Arduino because it's so popular and the community does support it a lot. Documentation's great. It was very easy to kind of mess with. We used several different Arduino boards. It didn't really matter. They all seem to work the same. So there was no kind of dependence on a certain version or not. Well, I think our latest rendition used the Uno. So we have the Arduino and then the stepper motor, but you actually need an intermediary thing to drive it, and that's what's called an H-bridge. And this is a circuit that will allow the current to reverse direction, so you can turn the other way as well, because the dial, you'll have to go multiple ways to enter a combination. So instead of building the circuit, we found an easier way is just to buy a shield that does a lot of this for you. And Arduino shields are just like Legos. You just put them on top of the Arduino, and you get some functionality. In this case, we got a motor shield. The original one we got was a Keys brand, and we ran into some issues using this. There was no documentation for it, so the schematics were hard to find, the pinouts. We couldn't get the motor to function correctly with our code. It would just vibrate consistently. We even consulted some experts at some local maker shops. Ethan Dick here, who's knows his stuff, kind of took a look at it and recommended that we ought to just save some time and get like a name brand Arduino motor shield just to make the job easier. So that's what we ended up using, the motor shield, which is on top of the Arduino here. And that is driving the logic for the stepper motor itself. And yes, I do blame David for all that. So we need power to drive all this. We went through a couple iterations of not enough power, and that resulted in some jerkiness of the motor. And as you're dialing 100,000 combinations, anything that is off from what you predict to move kind of screws up everything else after. So all your dials are going to be wrong. So it's kind of pivotal that our accuracy remains accurate, or else we're going to run into some issues. So this is what we end up using as selectable voltage, about 6 volts, 2.1 amps to drive all this. So to actually attach it to the dial, we initially went with a pretty lazy approach, but it kind of did work. Velcro and tape against the dial with the stepper motor. It worked a bit. Over time, though, we noticed some inaccuracy. The Velcro kind of drifting off as it wasn't completely secure. But so we kind of took back. Oh, yeah, we have a video here of the. Hopefully it plays. Yeah, so it's behind the plexiglass there, the mounting, and then it's upside down. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, it did actually turn it, but the accuracy wasn't quite there. So, barring some inspiration from the Australian guys who did this a couple years ago, they actually use a 3D part, and we got their schematic. We had to adjust it a bit for the size of our dial. And luckily there was a guy upstairs where David works, where the safe is at, where he does this for a living. So we kind of used his talent to adjust that. And so then we had to print off this. And we don't have a 3D printer. And there's a lot of places you can go to actually get parts printed. There's just like several maker shops around Columbus where we're at. But most of their quotes are around 60 to 80 bucks for a part print, which seemed kind of ridiculous. We ended up actually finding the Westerville Library offered prints for about $4.50, which is amazing. And not only did they do that, they had a drive-through, and I didn't have to get out of my car. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So we got our parts. We have a way to couple them and drive them, and we put them on the safe, have the chassis. So I guess we'll talk a bit about the chassis itself. It's basically plexiglass and magnets. It's pretty crude, but it does work. And you'll fit it on top of the safe and kind of adjust it down, move these nuts down so it's in place. But we think also this might be some of our source of inaccuracy. You can see there it is on the safe itself. So talking a bit about the mechanics of a Group 2 lock, which is what we're dealing with here. In our case, there's essentially 3 wheels with notches in each of them. And as you're doing the left-right motions, essentially you're wanting to get these notches to line up so that the fence, which is this bar on top, will lower down. And when you go to the lock position, it will pull it open and remove the bolt so it unlocks. And we actually have a safe. So Doug, who lent us this kind of demo lock here, I think illustrates that point pretty well. You can kind of see here. So we start by going left 4 times just to kind of clear the combo out so the wheels are spinning. And the first combo here was 40, so you can see the gap on the top there lines up. And there's the 3 wheel discs, so we want to get all those lined up there. So we go back the other way, pass our number twice, and next one I believe is 60. See, it lines up there. And so now we just need the 3rd disc to line up. 80. And so at this point, they're all lined up. The fence can drop freely, so we just spin back to the unlock point. And so something about these locks is that there is a fixed point where it will stop turning about 95 and unlock. And that's kind of pivotal for us in this case because as we're auto dialing, we didn't know when we're done dialing when we got the combo open. And taking advantage of that fact that it stops is important, and we'll kind of get to that, how we do that. So the key space itself, originally, if you look at it, you have 3 combinations, 100 numbers each. You're about a million combos to brute force. And, on average, our combo time, or our dial per combo is about 5 seconds. So 57 days is a long time to wait for the safe to be open. I mean, we technically have the time, but not really. So there is optimizations we can do. And because this is a group 2 lock, this was kind of funny. I found that there is a forbidden zone, and this is out of the spec sheet. The combo that you set, you do not use numbers between 0 and 20 on the last number. So that kind of limits our space down a little bit. So the last number being 21 through 99 as options we should try. So that's about 800,000 combos. And that's still putting us at like 46 days, so not great. The biggest thing we can take advantage of here is this tolerance. So each number we can be off a little bit just from the tolerances of actually the machinery. And on average, it seems about 1.25 digits each way, so about a 2.5 window allows us to skip every other number for the combination. So this is what really kind of drops the amount of combos we have to brute force to a manageable time. So 100,000 at around 5 seconds gives us about 5.7 days, pretty much a week. And if we're accurate enough, we can actually get this thing unlocked. The software to drive this, we're using the official Arduino Motor Shield, so we're just using the built-in stepper library. And I just wrote a kind of layer on top of that so we can abstract, just pass the 3 combos, and it does the logic of, left 4 and right and back and to the unlock point. And then we generate the key space to just keep it in memory. So how do you determine where the dial is at? If you want to click there, yeah, basically magnets. And so what we do is we use what's called a Hall sensor, a Hall effect sensor, and this is a magnetic indicator of magnetic fields. And it will just send back a binary signal 1 or 0 if there's a magnetic field present. So we place a small magnet on the dial unlock point and have it monitor that. So when it does hit an unlock point and it stops, we can register the magnetic fields there for a certain duration, and we know we've unlocked the safe and the dialing can stop. Did we actually succeed in getting this unlocked? Unfortunately, not yet, but we haven't given up. So we ran into some accuracy issues. We think it's a mixture between the power and the heat. So as this thing was running, it got hot, really hot, and it started shaking after several combos in. So we need a way to kind of fix that. We don't know if it's going to be a different power source, a different shield, a bigger stepper motor. It's important to get the power there because the torque is needed to actually turn this thing. There is some weight there. So we'll have to kind of revisit that. The chassis as well is kind of crude. I think there's better ways we can get this mounted on there. One of those being a router. So if we find like a used broken one, we can kind of rip apart that and stick our stepper motor in there, and that can just like fit right on. And I think we offer a more secure mount. And then if we figure out the heat and power issues, we can probably get more accurate dialing. Also, taking advantage of the Hall effect sensor for recalibration would be useful. So if we note when we're off, we can just do a periodic check to see, where we'll dial back to the magnet and then center back to 0. We can know we're still on track. So some of the lessons learned is initially just don't cheap out on hardware if you can't. It's easy just to get the name brand stuff. It works generally out of the box, and it saves some time because we did spend some time trying to get this working with some of the more obscure boards. Power was important. Kind of overlooked that in the beginning. Making sure that the power and the heat requirements were met really solved some of the big hiccups we got. And then we do note that they did change the policy at the library for our parts because we did visit them a couple times, and they raised the prices a bit, and we think they dropped the quality of the prints because now our parts are breaking, and that's not great. So we might have to consider going maybe to some of the more expensive places or find a different coupling mechanism. But yeah. Yep. Okay. So speaking of safes, we've been doing this a lot, and we kind of have our minds on safes. So earlier today, this was taken, I would say about maybe 200 feet away from maybe where we're already today. And, there's a lot of targets out there. Reporting findings, mechanical locks are susceptible to this brute force if they have that open lock position. You can optimize the key space and take advantage of that stuff, but at the end, time is the enemy, so you got to have full access to a safe if you're doing this kind of attack. And no one, it has to be okay to do that. Any newer locks can do anti-brute force mechanisms like the X07s, X09s, and those can really mitigate a lot of this stuff. So really older targets is where this would apply. Yeah, and just thank everyone for listening. Some shout-outs to some people that helped us with this process. But yeah, if you guys have any questions. Thanks.